I'm Mikolji. In this video I will show you how to skeletonize a fish. It's basically when you have a dead fish and you want to see the bone structure, you want to keep it in a place as an ornament, just the structure of the bones. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. There's some that involve beetles, which is a much better way than what I'm going to show you. But I don't have the beetles, I can't find them. And so I'm going to show you this way, which is basically just boiling the fish, taking the flesh off the bones, putting the bones in hydrogen peroxide, then you wait until they dry, and you glue them back together. And that's basically it. Now, for this video, we got a pretty large fish. So I hope you enjoy the video. This is a big Hydrolycus armatus that our good friend Rafael Amier sent us from Puerto Ayacucho in the Amazon state in Venezuela. We're going to try to take some pictures of it and see if we can get the bones, clean it out, and get the whole bone structure. So let's try to do this, and I hope it works. Let's start opening. Seems to have all its teeth in place, and we're now going to proceed to take some pics before we start with it. Start over here. The interesting part for me is the backbone and the head. I don't know if I'm cutting the wrong bones. Oh, it's not the wrong bones. My back is killing already. It's hard work. Let's turn it around. Let's try to do the same procedure. Now I've located the backbone. This is the vertebrae part we're interested in. Hope I didn't break it. Any of the spines. I've been manipulating it really quick, and hope I just didn't break it. It's the first time I've done it on a Hydrolycus. Cariba is much easier because they're much smaller. Piranhas, or Pygocentris cariba, are much smaller. So
they can fit in a pot and you can boil them. Once they're boiled, it's pretty easy. The skin is pretty hard if you don't scale it, which was a mistake. I probably had to scale it first. I normally boil the fish whole, and then this is much easier. You practically eat the fish, but these are too big. This fish is too big. So it's impossible. Here we go. Cut this. Now, all we need to do is see the fangs. Let's boil this, see if we can cut it in 3 or 4 sections to see if we can boil it. So the pot is probably big enough for the head, and I'll probably have to section it here. So let's start sectioning it. I should go measure the pot. The pot is 9 inches wide, so we'd have to section it in a couple of points to be able to boil it.
The pot I'm using is a big pot. Don't think it's one of those little pots. No, it's a regular big pot that you use in your house to boil pasta or whatever. It's a big pot. The thing is that it's a very big fish. I mean, the head is almost as big as the big pot.
Found a way to cut it through half of a vertebrae. Once it's sectioned, it's much easier. The tail is boiling and it should be done in 5 minutes. Boil it for 10. Spinal cord, you can see it here. Head is separated. See if this fits in the pot. Okay, we got the pot, boiling water, and it really doesn't look like it's gonna fit. Voy a ponerlo aquí a cocinar. Tapar un poco. Y vamos a calcularle unos 15 minutos. We can calculate at 15 minutes. Meterlo aquí. Close up.
one of the most important steps in all of this is to have a video camera at hand or have a picture camera and take a picture of the skull or the cranium of the fish before you tear it apart, and start tearing it apart little by little, and take a picture of it and take a picture of whatever bone you took off, if it's the operculum, what part of the bone, the jaw, and you take a picture of it to see where it goes, because once, if you forget where it goes, you're not going to be able to put this thing together again. So you know, you can, once you're building it, you can have your computer next to you. If you shot a video, you could, let's say, go backwards and see what you did. If you have pictures too, it's pretty easy. You go and see, oh, okay, this is how I wound up with this. Where does it go? So that's one of the keys. You have to take video or take pictures of what you're doing once you start taking this fish apart.
All this inner part of the hydraulicus is virtually like sandpaper. It's probably when it catches its prey, so the prey doesn't move a lot. All of this inner part is just has the texture of sandpaper. This is the middle part of the fish. Very oily fish. There's a lot of oil. Let's try to make some sense out of this.
So once your fish is boiled, you got all the meat, you clean it out, you can use a little brush, put it under water and just running water and just clean it all well out. And then you have to dip it in hydrogen peroxide. You buy regular hydrogen peroxide in the store, in the pharmacy or wherever, and yeah, in the store. And what you do is that you dilute it 50%. For example, buy a liter, here's metric. You buy a liter of hydrogen peroxide, you pour it in a bucket or whatever, and you put 1 liter of water in it. You dilute it completely, half and half. So if you have a very small fish, you probably need, I don't know, a small little container or a cup. You put a cup of hydrogen peroxide and a cup of water. And then you're going to put your fish bones in there. It could be from anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days, depending how big the fish is. And now what the hydrogen peroxide is going to do, it's going to break down the remaining oils and a little bit of the flesh that is left over on the bones. It's going to break it down. It's going to leave them nice and white. It's going to be even easier to brush the meat off. And so don't leave them really long in the hydrogen peroxide, because that could like bend the bones, make the cartilage fall off. So you have to be checking it out, testing it out. Check it every couple of hours and see if you have a very small specimen, that'll probably in an hour it'll be done. The other step is the microwave. Now this is something I learned on my own. You have to be very careful with this. What it does is that it dries out the bone completely, and it makes it super white. The microwave is going to heat up that bone to such a high temperature that the oil is going to start evaporating. You're going to see the oil evaporating like if it were water. And so you have to be very careful in small fish, because then that high temperature with the oil can actually bend the bones too. So it's a trial and error. You have to be very careful because it gets really hot. You don't want to wind up with a black bone. You have to probably try it a couple of seconds, 10 seconds, then try 10 seconds more, and take it from there too. Okay, so here are the bones that I wound up using. You can be as detailed as you want, and you could use all the minute, miniature little bones that are inside the skull. Now, I chose to use only the big, let's say the bones you see from the outside of the skull. Those are the ones I chose to use. You can go as detailed as you want. If you want to use all those little miniature bones, you can include them. So, you place your computer or your video camera or your picture camera and try to go through all those pictures and be sure to glue things once you know really where they go. Because if you try to unglue them, they're probably going to break and you're going to lose this whole process. So before you glue them, make sure you're really sure where they go. And the best way is looking at your videos, looking at the pictures you took. This process will be much easier if you present everything beforehand. Try to make sense beforehand, before you glue things together. And once you know where something goes and you're sure, then you could go ahead and glue it. What I did is that I used crazy glue, fast, high drying speed crazy glue, to kind of hold things in place. Once I knew where something was going to stay, then I used epoxy resin or epoxy glue, clear epoxy. I mixed that once, and I kind of poured it into, I poured it into the slots where I had put the crazy glue. So the crazy glue is just something to fix it, to put the epoxy, to be able to put the epoxy on, because the epoxy is kind of liquidy, and it won't hold. You won't be able to hold 10 or 15 minutes of the epoxy, the bone in one place. So the crazy glue is just something easy to hold the bone right in place, so while the epoxy glue can dry. Okay, so now this is what the fish looks like once it's finished. And pictures of this bone wound up actually in Practical Fish Keeping magazine. They've wound up everywhere, just the pictures of the bones. So it's quite interesting. You could do this with many other fish. Probably really small ones will need the beetles, but anything probably over a foot or near the foot in size is perfect for this process. I hope you like the Hydraulicus. Now I'm going to show you the same process but with a Pygocentris cariba, red-bellied piranha, which is of course much smaller and fits in the regular size pot.
We have a frozen Pygocentris cariba, a red-bellied piranha, and it has been begutted, and it's frozen stiff. So we're gonna dip it in the boiling water and let it cook for, 10, 15 minutes. Okay.
25 minutes have passed, and once you see that the skin falls off easily and the meat falls off easily, the fish is practically ready for the skeletonizing process. So here we have it. Pygocentris cariba. Here I'm gonna let it lie down, cool off, and let it cool off as flat as possible. So you let your fish cool off. Don't touch it while it's so hot. And you take the skin off, you take the meat off, and you have to be, although this is a very big piranha, it still fit in the pot. The tail was bent, so the fish was probably a foot, or probably a little bit longer. But even though it's a foot-long fish, you still have to manipulate it, which much gentler than the big Hydrolicus. And you see that you take the meat off, you put it in hydrogen peroxide, you let it dry, you put it in the microwave, you make those bones nice and white. The microwave will make them brittle too, make them really dry and kind of like ceramic feel to them. And you'll see that we wound up with not many bones. We actually wound up with few bones, which is, again, my intention is just for you to be able to know that it's a fish, it's a piranha, and there's probably more than 100 bones inside that skull. And if you want to go that detailed, you can. And so you see, we wind up with some. We use crazy glue and to glue them really quickly, so you could hold them in place and glue them. And then after they were dry, and a couple of seconds after, then we used resin, epoxy resin, and you see it came out really nice. It's a very nice bone structure, and actually pictures I took of this bone structure wound up in Nat Geo. So, you know, it's very interesting, it's very nice. You could put this inside a glass container or something, or hang, you know, it's very, very, very nice. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching. So there's a story behind this. While I was filleting this Hydrolicus, I got pricked by one of the spines on my thumb. Now this thing had come from the Amazon by bus. It was half decomposing when I was filleting it. So the next day, my thumb was yay big. It looked like an apple. And so I had to go to the doctor, to the hospital. I got shots, antibiotics. I really thought I was going to lose the thumb.